attacked a post office delivery van as it stopped at a sub-post office on the central housing estate. The gang used a number of cars, 4 in fact, including a distinctive red BMW Alpina. Detective Chief Inspector Ron Newsom's in charge of the case. What sort of response have you had? In fact, quite a few calls.
Yes, we've had an excellent response so far. We've had over 80 calls, mainly concerned with the red BMW. Several sightings, several suggestions. We've had some names put forward there from the video fix, and we've had one call in relation to the golf clubs.
What's surprising is that there weren't more calls and more interesting calls about the golf clubs, because they are so distinctive, aren't they?
Yes, they're a Ben Hogan Apex set of golf clubs. They were made specially long for the owner, who is very tall, so they were extended by 2 inches, and they had a brown leather grip put on at that stage, which is unusual for that particular set of golf clubs.
So only extra tall people could actually hope to use those as golf clubs?
That's right. Any person who's purchased these golf clubs innocently has nothing to fear by coming forward to us. That may lead us actually to the gang in the end.
Could be much more important than you realise, in fact. And several people have rung in to say, could they see the video fits again?
Yes, they have.
Can we have those descriptions?
Yes, the first video fit is of the man who was seen as the driver of the Daston Bluebird in Gower Walk. He's got curly hair, he's thin and about 5'8" and 35 years old. The second video fit, that was the passenger who was in the red Astra van when the cables were cut. And he's slightly younger, about 30 years old, and as you can see, he's got a fringe over the right side of his forehead.
Right, cool. Did you recognise those men? Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Newsom.
Now to that murder in Cardiff on Valentine's Day. Lynette White was last seen outside the Montmorency club in the city centre. The following day, a man was seen outside a flat that Lynette used to take clients to. She was a prostitute. Detective Chief Superintendent John Williams has been coordinating the calls. With what effect?
Yes, we've had more than 50 calls to our Cardiff studio, and we've had several calls here tonight, as you know. A man has called at a police station in Cardiff and has offered certain background information about Lynette, and this is being eliminated at the present time.
Now, we should make it clear this man is a potential witness. He's giving information. It's not remotely suspected that he's the murderer.
No, that's quite correct.
But you have had a call from someone who says he thinks he knows who the murderer might be, or at least he thinks he knows where Lynette was staying.
We've had a very interesting call from a male person in the Cardiff area who says that he knows where Lynette stayed during those 5 vital days. We would like this man to contact us again, as he has not revealed that address, and it is very, very important to this inquiry.
There's £1,000 reward on this. We should repeat, which has been put up by the family. We've got a video set, of course, of a man who was seen almost next door to the flat where Lynette was found. He had blood on his hands. Just take another look at that. Just give us that description again.
That man is aged between 35 and 40 years. He's about 5'8" to 6 feet tall. He is scruffy, and he has dark brown greasy hair with lighter hair crossing the top of his head. He is very upset. He is bleeding from his hand, and he's crying, and someone somewhere knows who he is.
This is the afternoon or early evening of Valentine's Day.
Certainly, yes.
Mr. Williams, thank you very much. Sir.
Well, now the calls we've had on incident desk and protocol, David, we did make an appeal during the programme again for somebody to call back on the murder of John Lawrence in Isleworth in Middlesex. Somebody rang and then rang off.
Yeah, she still hasn't called back yet, so unfortunately, so if she is watching, please call us. Your call will be treated in the strictest confidence. We have had some information, though, about that Nesco compact disc player that we showed. It looks as though we may have found that, but that's something to follow up. There is still some other property outstanding, though, that was lost. For example, a diary that he'd lost from the scene of the crime. We still would appeal, too, to the gay community. We've had very little information from the gay community in the area of Isleworth. Your calls will be treated in the strictest confidence. If you don't want to speak to us, the police, then please ring here. There are BBC researchers who will take your calls.
And it's the 7th to the 9th of last month, remember. What about the Interpol case? Did anybody recognise the artist's impression of the man who was found dead near Amsterdam?
Yes, a lot more calls on that one, Sue. We showed the picture of the man. Well, people rang in and said they think they know who he is, including a man who said he was on a sailing course with him last summer, has a photograph of the man that he's talking to us about. A social worker ran with a name. 3 calls, in fact, suggested that man is something to do with the army, and indeed giving details of a possible unit that he was connected with, so we'll be following that one up.
Any news on that incinerated jewellery?
Very little. We've had a couple of suggestions about where it could have come from, but don't really hold out too much hope. The make of those watches, Sue, is Nevada. Now, it's a very unusual make. Well, I haven't heard of it before. if you know where it could have come from, still call us, please.
And on photo call, the man who answered a car for sale advert and then stole the car.
Yes, a couple of possible names there. We showed you the photo fit of the man. There he is again. If you think you know who he is, those names we've got already might not be the right ones, so you still call us.
And the Armed Building Society robber in Yorkshire, we just want one more look at him, don't we?
Yes, 2 calls there. One name could be the one, may not be. We've had a request to see him again. Well, take a close look. Call us.
David, thank you.
Helen, what have you heard? The case that must have caused wry grins all across the country from Crimewatch viewers, a gang of fraudsters who had managed to take a home video of themselves and leave the cassette for the police to find.
Yes, that's right. It was found in a house in Norfolk. Well, there have been some very positive leads on this. If you remember, it was David Silverman, a rather tall guy, 6'2", with a Manchester accent, and he was with his, well, let's say he was with a younger man who purported to be his stepson. That's David, Ronald Silverman. He was in fact caught at a BBC Antiques Roadshow. There was also a third person, Philip Parris.
This picture was caught, though. We shouldn't say he himself was caught. He is still at large.
That's right, and obviously we want to pin him down. As I said, we have had positive leads, in fact, pinning them to a certain area. So hopefully that will turn out quite fruitful.
Every time I went back there, people were ringing about divers' helmets that you wanted in connection with that.
There's been a marvellous response, well over 110 calls of sightings of these helmets. So obviously that will take some time to filter through.
That gun, German Mauser pistol, tell us about that.
Yes, well, it's part of a rather large inquiry going on in Manchester. And the police there, they want to know who has possessed this gun. As you said, it's a Mauser.
It's only that particular one they want,
That's
isn't it?
right. It's got a serial number of 142503. Number of calls, but rather a disappointing response, particularly aiming at the collector or the souvenir hunter. Maybe they've seen it in someone's possession.
Then there was that very unusual-looking man who robbed the Cheshire Building Society at Queen's Ferry.
Well, everyone here thought he was a very distinctive guy. His height, 5'1" to 5'3", and those distinctive protruding teeth with a large gap in the middle.
Some viewers thought they might be false teeth.
Well, we understand not. He didn't speak with any speech impediment. We believe that they are his. Rather a disappointing response. Very little to tell you off on that one.
OK, there was a hijack of a post office van in Leicester. It just so happened that a suspect walked past a shop which had a security camera on him. What calls on that?
Well, up to a few moments ago, we had absolutely nothing. But then we had one very interesting piece of information linking that man with a robbery in Watford. If anyone has any information that could help us on that lead, please call.
OK, and I should just say we just heard that a man has been arrested and charged in connection with an item we carried on Crimewatch some time ago about a theft of a series of Mercedes cars, if you remember that. Because a court case appears to be pending, I'm afraid I can't give you any more details on it. So.
And that's it for tonight. Our lines here at the studio will be closing down at midnight, but we'll give you a list of the local relevant numbers in a moment. And if you still can't get through, just contact your local police, please.
There'll be more news about tonight's developments on Open Air tomorrow. News is still coming in, of course. That's at 11:25 a.m. We'll be back, as always nowadays, on the second Thursday of the month. That's Thursday, the 14th of April.
Well, Nick will be back actually then, but I'm due to have a baby in a few days' time, and I hope to have just a few days off. I think I deserve it, but I'll be back in May. So till then, goodbye from me.
And good night from them. Good night.
Goodbye.
There's international snooker on BBC2 in about 10 minutes when England take on the Republic of Ireland in their first-round match at Bournemouth. And on BBC1 now, we've a special St Patrick's Day celebration with Van Morrison and the Chieftains.